I'm the Talking Skull, and this year I'm exploring classic first-person shooters to draw a line from Wolfenstein 3D to Halo. We've seen Bungie step up to the plate and challenge id. Now it's time for another studio's take on Doom. The end of 1994 was an exciting time to be an FPS fan. Hot on the heels of Doom 2, and only 2 days after the release of Marathon, another new game hit the market. With Doom's radical success, John Romero decided to share id's engine with the upstart Raven Software, and teach them how to use id's tools to make their own project. This is how far ahead of the industry id were. They quite literally taught the rest of the world how to make first-person shooters. With Romero's help, Raven Software barely missed beating Bungie to the punch with their first Doom clone. And this time, I really mean clone. Heretic brings very little new to the table. Perceptive fans may even spot reskinned enemies and weapons from Doom. In that way, just about everything that works about the original Doom works in Heretic. We're still in hell fighting demons, but now with wands instead of guns. And the polish on these magic weapons is real hit or miss. The chainsaw gives me life, but then I have to use this nonsense. The basic weapon system gets a nice tweak from the Tome of Power upgrade, which soups up your attacks for a bit more depth to weapon options, even reinventing some weapons altogether. And I'm pretty pleased with some of the enemy designs. This ghoul's death animation is incredible, and although it's primarily melee, the first time it unleashed this move was a real scare. When I first stumbled onto this cultist, I actually backed away in fear. There are also a lot of nice graphical effects, like fire and water, that give more life to the environment, and the best art I've seen so far. A small but impactful thing Heretic does better than any game I've played in this series so far is telegraphing secrets. Secrets are no longer reserved for players who mash their faces into every random wall. Instead, just paying attention to your environment will let you naturally spot secrets by noticing buttons or unusual shadows. This makes secrets way more engaging, ingrains them more into the level, and means you'll never feel the need to do lines on the dungeon walls. The only new feature in Heretic is the inventory system. Instead of being instantly used, power-ups and health kits now go in your fanny pack so you can pull them out when you need them. This may sound nice, but any RPG fan can tell you what happens to consumables that have to be dug out of your inventory. Heretic reins in the hoarding instinct by only letting you take one of each item to the next level, but at least for me, it took a while for that lesson to sink in. The reality is, hoarding doesn't happen because we don't want to use items. It's just hard to know when it's the right time to use them. Doom's power-ups take this decision out of your hands. You use the power-up when id says you need it. In Heretic, things are less clear, and lots of items go to waste. Raven absolutely flood the game with power-ups to counteract this, so please, for me, just use them. The other, larger issue with managing an inventory system in a 1994 shooter is that the control scheme and UI are just not advanced enough to handle this. It's hard enough just juggling weapons on the fly when you can't reach the number keys and don't get to use the scroll wheel. Additionally, using the brackets and enter key to manage your inventory is real cumbersome. Even as late as the final boss, I still struggled to efficiently navigate the menu mid-combat. Between the cumbersome controls and the analysis paralysis that keeps you from using items at all, I have to say that the inventory system feels like a downgrade to me. On the hardest difficulty, the flexibility in power-up usage probably makes things way more dynamic, but for normal play, it mostly just gets in the way. For me, though, what really sets Heretic apart is the level design. Coming from Doom 2, and especially Marathon, Heretic's layouts are such a breath of fresh air. Raven Software balance open, exploratory designs with smartly placed locks and keys to create levels that flow without feeling restrictive. Let's break down an early Heretic level to understand the basics we're working with. Level 4, the Guard Tower, starts you off looking through a window out onto an open central area. On either side of you lies a door. Right away, you get a sense of where you are in the level, and a simple, if blind, choice of where to go. For bonus points, there's a secret door directly behind you with goodies. Through the right-hand door, you're walked to a view of the yellow key, but it's on a pedestal out of reach. You'll have to come back later to get it. This path has a branch point, though. Continuing down the hall brings you to the open area you saw earlier. This is actually the same place you reach if you take the other door at the beginning of the level. Either path walks you to the same room, just from different ends. You're free to explore this little town, but you'll eventually find this centrally located yellow lock that can't be opened. A nearby switch has no apparent effect, so you continue searching. There are goodies to find tucked into various corners of town, but eventually you'll wrap around to whichever entrance you didn't take to get here. Now that you're back in the first set of halls, you're naturally funneled to that yellow key you need, and now the platform is raised. Guess we know what that switch did. Grab the key, get pranked, get a new weapon for your trouble, and walk straight ahead to be led right back to the yellow lock, exactly where you need to be. At every step of this first half of the level, Raven Software guides you to exactly where you need to be with a subtle hand, letting you branch out just enough before reining you back in. This lock leads to a wholly separated section of the map. There's a staircase that you're obviously meant to go up, but inquisitive players might check the back of the tower and find another path. Either staircase leads you to the same green lock, which you can't open until you take a quick diversion to grab the key. Take the green key to its lock, make your final ascent, and fight a mini-boss to earn your freedom. This level has such great use of converging paths to allow the player the opportunity to wander while still funneling you to where you need to go. So many levels in Heretic have this natural flow where you feel like you're exploring a non-linear zone, complete with side paths full of rewards, but you always coincidentally wind up where you need to be, and this kind of design is exactly why. Raven Software were working under tight deadlines with unfamiliar technology. Many of the less kosher similarities between Heretic and Doom can be chalked up to the team simply not having the time to invest in tweaking the engine as much as they might have liked. For their first project with these tools, I consider Heretic a resounding success. Heretic is available on Steam, along with its expansion and all of its sequels for only $10. If you enjoyed classic Doom, I'd call that a good deal. Unfortunately, there are no modern controls or remapping, so you're stuck using the arrow keys, toggle strafe, and the clunky inventory controls. Or you could just use Chocolate Doom and mess with the controls to your heart's content. That's right, because Heretic is basically just an extensive Doom WAD, you can just paste the Heretic WAD file into Chocolate Doom and it should work just fine. As with Doom, you'll definitely want to increase the difficulty if you're using modern controls. If this old stuff is interesting to you, check out the rest of my series on first-person shooters to see what I have to say about Doom and more. And if there are any you think I should cover, leave a comment so that I can see. Next week, we'll see a company desperately claw for a taste of the success it missed out on.